one office, one doctor. We had one of our family member friends come up to Will and I and say, this is American Pediatric Dental Group, but there's only one doctor and one office. Why is it called group? And my husband looked at them and chuckled and was like, well, because the vision is to continue growing. And when you think small, you stay small. When you think, and when you think big, well, sky's the limit. Even if you don't reach nationwide, which we never did because our family was first, right? And we knew it would require too much travel, and we didn't want to become super ultra wealthy and then our kids be like, my parents were never home. So how we went from 1 to 2, first we had to hire another doctor to replace Will so that he can work at that location while we built out the second office. And we looked at, we live in South Florida. Where is another city where we never opened in high class or low class. We were in middle class. Honestly, I used Target again. I knew all the studies. People that go to Target, Target only opens where there are moms, suburbia, in big areas because that's their market. And that was our same target market. So it really helped me really get the insider of like, okay, let's open here. And then we used the same model that we used to open our first location. We bought the building or the location as a real estate. Yep. Then we built it out and we made the look completely different. And from there, 2 years later, we opened the third one and we were building a team. We wouldn't have been where we are today without our team. And I think when people ask me, how'd you do it? There's no I in team. It wasn't just Will and I. We had our entire team rowing the same way. And everybody that worked there, I'm telling you, even the doctors, you weren't coming to work for a paycheck. You were coming to work to make a difference in these kids' lives. And I'm telling you, that was another secret to our success because we weren't focused on the money. Man, we were still living with my parents at home and I was pregnant. I had my second baby, 13 months apart. So for us, we knew we were after something so big that we knew that eventually it'll all work out. And so from one location, we just kept replicating and we started building systems and processes, creating manuals. So every office was easier to open. And this is brick and mortar. This is not an online business that didn't require a huge team or contract.
No, it requires a team and capital to buy the buildings. I mean, you had to keep repeating that model. And so you probably didn't actually get to a space where you were making money for quite some time, like meaning bringing it into you were pouring it all into the business to grow.
100%.
How many locations did you get to before you decided to sell?
7.
What's the moment where you decide that you're ready to sell?
Well, after COVID, we never went into this with, we're going to sell the business, but 10 years, especially in the medical space, especially because we were so heavily insurance based, a lot of things started changing after COVID. The expenses of running a business, payroll, it was creeping up to you. And when you work with state insurance, even PPO and HMO, there's only a certain amount of money that their fees will increase, but it's not enough where our expenses were starting to creep up. And truthfully, running 130 team members, 18 doctors, it was taking a toll on Will and I. It was the roller coaster, like you mentioned. We had no private equity. Every office that we opened, we would use the money from there to help sustain it until that one was able to open on its own. We had so much bank loans, that we were paying. So we were heavy in our loans. There came a point to say, okay, we had a lot of people already asking to buy us since we opened our doors, and we would always say no, no, no. But after COVID, it was almost like a sign that my husband was starting to lose sleep, get high blood pressure, and the anxiety of, okay, we're doing great now, but these expenses are creeping up. We did have our best year in COVID. We realized, our kids are so little and we have, the priorities in our life is God, family, and then business. And the business was doing so well. We had an EBITDA that was so good. And we said, you know what? I mean, do we really want to continue this roller coaster ride? Or do we say, you know what? This is good enough and let's stop here and let someone take over to make sure that our team had really good benefits, that they could provide them with the benefits that we couldn't. And we didn't want to eventually say, you know what, we got to close this whole operation because where would these kids go? So that's when we decided now's the time to exit, because there is a golden period, and this is so true, you know, where it's that time to exit. Because right now, 2024, they're not getting the multiples that we got.
That's right. I mean, this is an interesting thing. There's so much that you said that's interesting. I think one piece that people need to realize is that usually about 80 to 90% of a business owner's net worth is tied up in their business. So on paper, you're looking at that EBITDA and you're like, man, we are multi-millionaires. And in reality, you're like living at your parents' house or like just really not being able to extract that value. So a lot of times it's how far can you go before the amount of stress becomes not worth it? And can you extract enough at a golden time, like you said, where a multiple is, you know, really one that is great. I had the same experience. I think we sold in the same year, right? Did you sell in 21?
Yes.
Yeah. The 21 was like the golden year for acquisitions for sure in terms of timing. And people ask me like, can you time acquisitions? And you can't, but also you can. Like if you know the timing and your finances are good, then you're in good shape. So, okay. So you sold to a DSO, to Dentistry for Children, D4C, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Tell our listeners what a DSO is so that they understand sort of how those operate.
Okay, great. Great question. And it's something that Will and I didn't even know. We were building a DSO. When you own multiple locations, you are essentially a DSO, a dental service organization. Now, the big DSOs, right, the big dogs, they have the infrastructure to help continue to grow 10, 20, 30, 200 locations, because now they have their own marketing department, they're an HR, they have a legal department. And when you have a lot of dental offices, you get even better rates with insurance companies. So, and you get better rates for supplies, right? The bigger you are, they're giving you a higher discount on a lot of things. And it takes a lot, even just to run a 7-office, 130, one time we had 150 team members, and it takes a lot to grow that. So being part of a dental service organization the benefit is really, you know what, being able to leverage their resources, basically the management side, which is the hardest part of running an organization. And we decided to sell to a DSO that's really, we interviewed 2. Okay. And if they're listening to this eventually, here's what it is. We went with a company that we know could take care of our baby, our team, and that understood pediatric dentistry. We didn't want to go with one. We interviewed one who really was like, I mean, they gave us such a good deal, but they had, and anybody who's listening, the golden handcuffs is what we like to call it. When you sell, sometimes they want you to stay on for X amount of years. They want you to continue to grow. But truthfully, if you're selling, it's because you're done. Like, you don't want to do this like anymore. You want somebody else to take it to the next level. And so the one organization that we didn't end up going with was a more general dentist, and they needed help building the pediatric side. And we were just, both of us were just like kind of like checked out. We're like, we don't want that headache. And
you were burnt.
Yeah, we were burnt.
You were burnt already. Yeah. So, okay. So it sounds like the 2 reasons you went with Dentistry for Children was, 1, the focus on pediatric dentistry, so they knew what you did. And then 2, you didn't have a level of golden handcuffs that felt prohibitive. Okay. So what, in the dental space, educate me a little bit. What are the typical multiples? Just give me like the range and like maybe where they were then and how much they dropped. Do they drop by several times? Like, are they that? I assume dental practices are valued on EBITDA, right? A multiple of your EBITDA?
Yes.
Okay. And what are the typical multiples for that type of business?
And it depends on if you're an oral surgeon, if you're a pediatric dentist. So I don't want to speak incorrectly. I'll tell you, for pediatric dentistry, it's usually between 6 to 10.
It's similar in the agency space. It's very similar. So it's like we say 4 to 8 now, and it's 4 to 8 now, but it was 6 to 10.
Right. Especially because the more specialized you are, the higher. But even if you're a general dentist, you can get really good multiples. But with the interest rates right now, it's hard and
really hard. So when you sold, did you sell the practices and the buildings, or did you keep the buildings?
No way. We did not sell the real estate. Are you kidding? That's our passive income, our retirement, and the dentistry, the field of dental and medical, the rate of closing down is so minimal. That's why banks were so eager to loan us money, because they know that dentists are not going to move around. Once you have a good hold in a city, you're not moving. And so we were not selling our real estate, but they weren't even interested in the real estate. Their game is not real estate. They want dental offices. So for us, it was great because, like you said, you look paper rich when you have your EBITDA, but when you really are able to pay off all the loans, because that was part of the deal, is we have to pay off all our loans in order to sell. It was the best thing ever, because it would have taken us 30 years to pay all the loans that we had.
You paid off, so you get this multiple. You pay off all the loans. Now you own all the real estate outright. You no longer have to worry about the dental practice, which is the intensive part of the work. Now you own these locations outright and rent, I assume, to your acquirer, right? Did you end up renting?
Yes, and for market value, and then every year 3% increase. I mean, let me tell you, anybody who is you make money in real estate, you've got to make sure real estate is key, especially when you have a good tenant. Medical is really good. The default rate and so it was a great relief, and we never look back and say that was the worst decision. We actually love the company who purchased us. None of our doctors left. Our managers are still there. We made sure that we flew up to Atlanta to their headquarters. We visited their office. We met with the whole corporate team, and we have the same vision, the same values, and really they let dentists practice dentistry. They really are just handling the management side, which is why our dentists are still happy, because nobody says it's not about the money. They're not like, oh, you need to do more fillings or cavities. They don't dictate any of that. Actually, they really take care of the doctors, which is such a huge thing. But selling, having the real estate, paying off everything. We have no more loans. And when I tell you we had a lot of bank loans and a lot real estate loans,
it probably was crushing. It probably felt that debt, I think is very, very challenging. Feel really crushing.